Good afternoon and welcome to Let's Talk. I'm your host, Denise Rollard Barnes. Black Philanthropy Month, which is in August this month, has grown from an idea into a movement celebrated in more than 60 countries and engaging over 100 million people. This movement emphasizes Black giving, which is gravely important as organizations that rely on philanthropy are suffering today due to the impact of the recently adopted anti-DEI policies that have cut funding, particularly to Black institutions, significantly. But in my mind, I have to ask the question, how did the Black community build churches, establish schools, build institutions? How did we do that well over a century before there was anything called DEI? Well, we're going to talk about that and more with Dr. Jacqueline Bouvier Copeland, founder of Black Philanthropy Month and the WISE Fund. Dr. Copeland is also an anthropologist and a singer, songwriter, dedicated to preserving and advancing Black culture globally. It is my honor to bring on Dr. Copeland. Welcome to Let's Talk.
I'm happy to be here this morning. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Let me ask you, just from the beginning, what inspired you to create Black Philanthropy Month, Dr. Copeland? And did you ever imagine its global impact?
It's a long story, of course, but if I had to boil it down, every success I've had in my life is because of Black philanthropy. My mother is from South Carolina, Gullah Geechee heritage, was part of that great migration, came up to Philly, and that's how we lived. Like a lot of Black people, we didn't necessarily have the term philanthropy. We just said we were giving back or what have you. But it was just a part of growing up. And I remember wondering as a youngster when I was about to graduate high school, how in the world are we going to have money for me to go to college? And my oldest cousin, Doreen, said to me, well, there are these things called scholarships. And if you keep doing, good work and get good grades, strangers will give you money to go to college. I said, well, how do I get some of that? What do I do? And to tell you, before I knew the term, a fundraiser was born. So dreams cost money. And there are many gifted young people, entrepreneurs, innovators who are very competent, have high potential, but they just don't have access to resources. So from that early formative experience, I actually ended up working in philanthropy, which is a book length story. Won't get into that. Working in these large foundations can be very isolating as an African American. You can end up in an ivory tower. And so I was determined to stay rooted in my community, in the culture that raised me, made me. Everything that's good about me comes from my family, the creator, and my culture. And also there's this myth, especially in the corporate sector and in foundations, that Black people are the only people on the planet who don't give.
Well, also there's also that belief, and that's why we're going in that direction, because first of all, I'd like for you to explain from your perception or your idea what philanthropy is. And then I think that is also evident among Black people that we are the recipients and not necessarily the givers. We don't take into account what we give. We think more about what we should receive.
Right. And that was another factor that motivated me to create this as a public awareness campaign to educate our people and everyone else about the phenomenal millennia old giving traditions that we have that have shaped history. So the word philanthropy actually literally means love of humanity. That's what the root word means in the Greek, in the ancient Greek. And so there are a lot of technical definitions, but having been in this field now for 40 plus years and have done philanthropy of various sorts all over the world, I simply boil it down to love of humanity in action. It's not just about words. It's about what you do to show love for another human being or a community or the environment. And so you may recall that often we would hear the term in churches about giving time, talent, treasure. In the Black community, almost across the world, that's a functional definition of philanthropy. You don't have to be rich. You don't have to be a certain race or a certain ethnicity. Every single culture on the planet has some approach and practice of giving. Just like all human beings have some family structure. The structure might differ, but there is no such thing as a culture that does not have families, right?
Is there anything significant about the month of August that you chose to make Black Philanthropy, to establish Black Philanthropy Month?
Right. Well, some of your listeners may know that there are quite a few historical milestones that have happened in August. The first enslaved Africans arrived in the U.S. in August 1619. The British abolished slavery in August. Marcus Garvey was born in August. Martin Luther King's "I Have a Dream" speech was in August. Barack Obama accepted the Democratic presidential nomination in August, actually the same day as the "I Have a Dream" speech. August 28th is almost like a mystical day in global Black history. There's actually a commemoration called Black August that has existed since 1979 to celebrate in August the tradition of liberation struggles and our successes around social justice. And August is also Black Business Month, which has existed for almost 20 years. And so, I know that's just the tip of the iceberg. I really do, at this point in my life, think there's something cosmic going on with August for Black people or Afro-descendant people around the world. And so I actually started creating Black Philanthropy, what would become Black Philanthropy Month, in the year 2000. And then in 2011, the United Nations declared the International Year for People of African Descent to bring global awareness to our shared struggles, our diversity, but also our common destiny. And that turned into a decade for people of African descent. And so I specifically used August for the reasons we mentioned, and 2011 in particular, to tie the kickoff of this movement to the UN's International Year for People of African Descent in 2011. I did not imagine fast forwarding. And, this was kind of like an act of defiance for me. It's like, I'm going to prove to everybody and bring together all of the leaders, because I had been working in Africa and across the diaspora since I was 19 years old, which is very unusual for African Americans with my background of my age. And so I had all these networks. And so I knew about philanthropy in Nigeria. I knew how it was connected to how we do philanthropy in Black communities in the Caribbean and in the US and in South America. And I was at some level so excited about it. I felt like everybody needed to know that Black philanthropy wasn't just what we do in the US, that it's existed since ancient Egypt. That we in the US, if you count African immigrants and Black Americans, we give an average of $23 billion a year.
And that doesn't include the volunteerism and the other aspects of giving.
I'm just talking about the money.
Right.
I'm about actually what we give as US born Black people and then immigrant Black people. It's truly amazing. In fact, study after study has proven that we give the highest proportion of our income to charity. Philanthropy, giving Black, whatever you want to call it, is part of our culture. You think about how we raise our kids. We're always trying to teach them pretty early on. It's like, pay it forward. To whom much is given, much is expected. We have even all these proverbs among not just African Americans, but Black people across the world. But often we take our culture and our greatness for granted.
So you're thinking this month, which you've spoken to when you talk about philanthropy or global philanthropy within the African diaspora, but you're talking about many voices, one movement. That's your theme or that is the theme for Black Philanthropy Month. And what does this mean to you, and how well, we talked about how people have practiced philanthropy, but what is it that you think we need to do more of, particularly at this time when we feel like we are being defunded, all the negative things that are happening to our institutions that are struggling to serve? What should we be doing now as many voices in this one movement?
Oh, yes, that's a very, very pertinent question and a good one. I would say first, it's not just that we're being defunded. Certain forces are actually trying to make it illegal for us to pool our resources and target them to our own community. I mean, there was almost a Supreme Court case. You probably heard about it, the Freedom Fund, that was established by an African-American woman to fund women of all backgrounds and African-American entrepreneurs. And certain anti-DEI forces said that was racist. And so that's pretty unprecedented, because the right to assembly and free association is supposed to be a basic constitutional right. So right. I think, first of all, the old term used to be Pan-Africanist, the whole idea that Black people are, regardless of their ethnicity or nationality, skin color, whatever, that just like people of European descent, that we are a global identity as well. And that there are certain issues, just like in different Asian communities, Jewish community, that we should come together on, regardless of where we were born or how we define our identity. That is part of who I am. That comes from starting to work in Africa and the Caribbean and, of course, the U.S., South America at such an early age. It's my specialty as an anthropologist, and I'm always looking for ways to convene the 2 billion Black people on the planet to work together to address our issues. We are basically facing the same challenges still as a result of slavery for centuries, colonialism, and unfortunately internalizing some of the untrue negative stereotypes of our people. So this whole notion of many voices, one movement is to represent the fact that there are many ways to be Black. There are many terms for describing Black. Like in Brazil, many people prefer the term Afro because there's so many different skin colors, you know, in Black. So I don't argue about what we call ourselves. To me, the core define common denominator is having some African root that is experienced differently because we have different histories. And let's face it, the neo-racists, neo-Nazis, anti-Black forces being arrayed against us, they're part of a global white supremacy movement. And so we need to figure out how to think locally or nationally, but act globally. We are very powerful.
Right.
Consider the fact that we have 2 billion people and tend to have the highest levels of entrepreneurship and philanthropy in all of our countries. We Black women tend to have very high levels of education in many countries worldwide. So we have a lot of past positive aspects or assets that we can build on. And now, since many forces are trying to roll us back to an early 20th century subordinate status, or even actually erase us, it is absolutely time to come together as one people when we can, when it makes sense, across lines of ethnicity, country of birth, language, and pool our resources. And so, yes, we have a theme every year. We have for 25 years had a theme that's a rallying cry for Black people across the planet to plan their entrepreneurship, their nonprofit work, and their giving, so that hopefully we're moving in the same direction. And we're at a crossroads as Black Philanthropy Month. I feel that movement leaders should lead movements for more than a generation, because a lot happens in 25 years, right? The world changes. And I am very happy to say that I have a successor for Black Philanthropy Month, a very dynamic next generation leader named Floyd Jones, who's created an organization called Back Black. And so I am collaborating with him to create a fund. And I don't know if you want to talk about Agape.
I want to do that. A couple other things I wanted to kind of get in before we have to end. But I just want to kind of bring out the fact, too, that, you know, I know that I've talked to some CEOs of Black museums around the country, struggling, maybe facing closure, but they think they're not. I mean, as I said, Black organizations, in spite of all the money that the Black community gives, there's like this need to do more, right? And even if it's just walking into the door and becoming a patron of an institution, Black-owned businesses, Black museums, going back to church, you know, and supporting the church. We're not in those pews like we used to be. So church doors are closing. So, I mean, I think this is fantastic, you know, that we have this Black Philanthropy Month to remind us of how we built institutions and supported those institutions. But we're in some challenging times, and you've explained why. And so, yeah, I mean, we want to talk about the WISE Fund. If we want to talk about Agape, that's fine. I'm glad that you have a successor because we all need to have successors so that these movements can continue. So go ahead and share that with us briefly if you can.
Yeah. So Agape stands for a global and Pan-African philanthropic economy.
Okay.
And of course, it refers to the whole notion of brotherly and sisterly love that exists in many world religions. And so we have this enormous network of 100 million people who've engaged in Black Philanthropy Month. So when COVID happened, I said, what would happen if we started doing fundraising among those 100 million people? This tremendous, unprecedented global Black network for giving and funding equity. And I did a couple of tests, won't get into the detail, and they worked. And so that's where I came up with this notion of Agape and the acronym that would be a platform that would connect grant seekers from nonprofits with donors and other funders across the world. And so I have been blessed to help set up a few foundations, for example, in Nigeria. Okay, they're not my foundations, but for clients. Some of those donors or philanthropists, they are concerned about Black people across the world. So what would happen if we provided them with a pre-qualified list of, say, Ohio-based Black-led nonprofits that fit their areas of interest, say if it's healthcare or education or youth arts, whatever the case may be. So I'm building with my successor because I'm 64 years old and somebody needs to keep this going after I'm long gone. This Agape platform that would be essentially like a global matchmaking service between Black nonprofits, Black-led nonprofits across the world, and donors who want to support everybody.
I think one of the things that you're also sharing in this is that folks often think about the continent of Africa and its population as a bunch of poor folk. But some of the richest people in the world are in places on the African continent. And so it's amazing that you've been able to create that match program because, I mean, they want to connect and they have the resources and they're, helping at home, but how do they help abroad? That's amazing, Dr. Copeland. I've not heard anyone who's come up with anything like that.
It's unique, but I will tell you, as part of who I am, this is the work I've been doing for 40 plus years.
Yeah.
So I do feel like I am ordained to do this, right? It's like my gift to the community that I will build with this brilliant next generation leader who can run it for another generation. And we just got word yesterday that we got a key grant to build the pilot. And so we will be announcing more about it over the course of August. It's going to take us about 18 months to build the beta or initial version of it and test it. But I feel like it has great potential. They're similar platforms, but they don't really include our communities.
Right.
Worldwide. And so it's not so helpful. And so this is a time where we're going to have to realize our assets, our riches, step beyond the stereotypes of our people, such as we don't give. We give abundantly. And we're going to have to give more, whether it's time, talent, or treasure. I will say, I was a volunteer these 25 years in building Black Philanthropy Month. because I still I believe in pay equity for women and our people and everything, but sometimes there are such serious emergencies, like Martin Luther King didn't get paid initially. Nobody would give him a grant. He just had to do what he felt was necessary and have faith that God would take care of his needs and his family's needs in some way. And so I've been working professionally and building Black Philanthropy Month.
I want
to my community.
You talked about gifts, and one of the things that I want to talk about before, in the next couple of minutes that we have before we end, is the gift of song and songwriting. And as you pass the baton, it sounds like this is the baton that you're going to sort of maintain and continue through music and culture and storytelling. So before we go, I want to know more about Dr. Copeland, the musician.
Asking a lot of joy. I mean, many of us have more than one gift, right? But at some point in your life, because to take care of your family, your children, your elders. I told you we had very humble roots. And my mother's like, there will be no feast or famine careers with you being the first one to go to college. And so I in part became an anthropologist because I figured if I couldn't make culture, I could study it. And if I were blessed to live long enough, I could return to my first love, which is the arts. And for me, music is not just entertainment. From my Gullah Geechee culture upbringing by my grandmother, it is also it's divine medicine. It's divine breath. When you think about the music we've grown up with from our elders and in church, or even, if you're Muslim, the mosque, what have you, our music has been a way to keep people hopeful, to help us process stress, to help us envision a better future, and to feel loved and have a taste of freedom when there was really none. And so it has been a private spiritual practice for me since I was a child to sing and write this music. And I sing in a style that's part of my Gullah Geechee roots. I love singing a cappella because we believe that the voice is an instrument and it's a direct channel to God or the divine. And so I have leaned into that in part because it's therapy, self-therapy for me. Yeah, I'm successful on paper, but I face the very same challenges that our people do in life, having education or some access to financial resources. Then you're still Black in America, you're still Black in the world, you're still
tell it
diversities you have. And for me, this is how I pray. My songs are songs. I'm actually doing a concert series that I call Music Mystic, the sound healing experience, where I will be singing my chants as a way to help people process the really profound stresses, not just the political conflict in the U.S. and the world, but the fact that people are being lynched again is absolutely horrifying.
Yeah.
And so I'm not going to go too deeply into that, but I hope that my music gives people a taste of love, hope, and freedom for themselves, our people, and all of humanity in very turbulent times. And as I always do, I will try to reach as many people as I can. I've been so committed to this since 2022. I have released 35 songs and 4 albums.
Amazing.
The Wise Fund has a nonprofit music label We've, with some other women, we've started a ensemble called Soul Fusion. I'm planning, God willing, to take Music Mystic across the U.S. and across what I call the Black world. And for everything I do is based in our culture, but I welcome everybody. And when you think about it, Black music in some way, not just from the U.S., but salsa and samba, for example. Afro music. Our music is the soundtrack of the world. So it's culturally specific, but it is also universal. I think people hear the hope. They hear the pathos. They hear humanity's motherland of Africa in these sounds. And so I'm very excited to live long enough to have a chance to share this music that has grounded me and kept me connected to community, ancestors, and the Creator with the world.
Dr. Copeland, I really want to thank you so much for being with us today, for sharing the history, your legacy, and the history of Black Philanthropy Month, and knowing that there's a future there. And I wanted to go out with one of a piece of one of your songs that you created and that you're singing, and give folks an opportunity. And I think you said it as well, that we have given so much, but it's still up to us to give more to support our institutions across the globe. So again, thank you for being with us today. And we're going to sign off, but not sign off without hearing more from you. Thanks for being with us.
To learn more about our work and our recent Soul Fusion album.
Hey. Thank you.
Good morning, heartache, your gloomy sight. Good morning, heartache, thought we said goodbye last night. I tossed and turned until it seemed you had gone, but here you are with the dawn. Wish I forget you, but you're here to stay. It seems I met you when my love went away, and now I wake each day by saying to you, good morning, heartache was new. Stop haunting me now. Can't shake you, no how. Just leave me alone. I've got those Monday blues, straight through Sunday blues. Good morning, heartache, here we go again. Good morning, heartache, you're the one who knew me well. Might as well get used to your hanging around. Good morning, heartache.
we're going to continue our conversation on Black philanthropy because this is Black Philanthropy Month. And again, if you've heard previous shows, you know that Black people give. We give. We get, but we give. And we give in lots of ways. So we're going to continue this conversation. I'm so excited to have as our guest at this moment, attorney or Temi Bennett, Esquire, who is the president and CEO of IF, a foundation for radical possibility. I want to welcome her onto the show and make sure that I said that correctly. Temi, welcome to Let's Talk.
Thank you, Denise. And yes, you said that correctly.
Fantastic, fantastic. So tell us about I don't want to just say if, because it is if a foundation for radical responsibility. I mean, there's a whole phrase there, but tell us about the organization and how you got involved and what you all are all about.
Yeah, so and it's if a foundation for radical possibility, but you can absolutely just say if. And so we are a private racial justice foundation here in the DMV. We are based in Washington, D.C., but we fund in suburban Maryland, so PG County, Montgomery County, and then Northern Virginia, as well as D.C. And we center Blackness. Our vision is about Black self-determination. Our vision statement goes, we envision a world where Black people and people of the global majority live powerfully, abundantly, and beautifully in self-determined communities free of physical, social, economic, and ideological violence. That is if a foundation for radical possibility. The only other thing I'll say is that when we talk about radical possibility, we're really using Angela Davis's definition of getting to the root of things. And the root in this country is anti-Blackness. And so we are trying to address harm, particularly Black harm, at the foundation.
So we know that philanthropy, we look at that in terms of, giving to organizations, individuals, causes, what have you. How does IF sort of fit in under that umbrella? Explain that to me.
Yeah, so traditional philanthropy, like you said, like we fund programs to like kind of manage consequences of harm. We fund people and organizations that are working to end the conditions that the harm produces. So that means centering Blackness explicitly. We are honest about where the resources have come from, which is a system built on extraction and Black harm. And we try to move those resources back to the community to build power rather than dependence. And so we do grant making, we run our own programs as well. For example, our guaranteed income pilot, and we are constantly learning and unlearning and trying to shift when our analysis demands it.
Yeah, we still want to take a step back a little bit because I want people to fully understand. You gave an example, but we want to kind of stretch it out a little bit so that folks can really understand how you do the work that you do, support the causes or the people that you say are the, I don't want to say victims, but who are impacted by social injustices. So is there an organization or a cause or something that you can really sort of share with us?
I can talk about we do 4 pillars of work, right? Like our work under 4 pillars. So one is community power. That's our traditional grant making. So that's what most philanthropy thinks about. And every pillar we're asking a question. And so for community power, the question is, what if philanthropy was community centered? And community power is our participatory grant making committee. So the committee determines the community determines where the resources go. We fund our work through our IDs, which we call our identity. And our IDs are in IDS, so innovation, disruption, and then lower S, systems change. When we talk about our IDs, we're talking about innovation in the sense of new and remembered traditions that are outside of Western framework. So we're talking about principles of Ujima and Ujamaa, so cooperative economics, right, and collectivity. So that is to us the folks and the organizations that are trying to build beyond anti-Blackness and beyond the American status quo. That would be innovation. Disruption is we're abolitionist organizations. So disruption is organizations that are focused on dismantling anti-Blackness in this country. And so an example of a disruption organization that we fund is Harriet's Wildest Dreams in DC or DC Justice Lab. And then systems change, we say with a small s, because we do not believe that systems that are built on anti-Blackness can actually be reformed. But we do think that there can be some work at the policy level that mitigates and tries to change the material condition of Black folks. But when we're talking about systems change, we're talking about organizations that are doing advocacy and policy work to impact meta-racism. And we're using Dr. Trista Harris's definition of meta-racism, which is a containment, extraction, and punishment of Black people. So if you're doing policy work at that level, then you would qualify for funding for us. So that's community power, right? And then it's culture. Culture is our narrative change work. The what if question we ask for culture is, what if we told the truth? And so we actually did our first documentary 2 years ago. It's called Diminished Returns, the Black Wealth Gap in Washington, D.C. And that documentary actually won DC Independent Film Festival Best of Fest 2025.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And we also have another animation and also working on another documentary that is going to track our repair work that we're doing. So that's culture. And then sector change. We believe that philanthropy should be community-centered. We believe that philanthropy should center Blackness. And so that's our sector change work that's trying to influence our peers to change the way that traditional philanthropy operates, not just from the grant making, but where the endowment sits, how much they give every year. We're only required to give 5%, although 5%, like, the problems, right, are going to cost more than the 5%. 1, 2 is also about where you're, like, you might give 5% in grant making, but your endowment might be making money in harmful industries, right? So it's not just about the racial equity in the grant making or the racial justice in your grant making, but is your endowment making money in a socially responsible way that is not causing more harms, where your smaller grants are going to try to mitigate, right? So that's for philanthropy. A lot of, like, some folks in the sector are invested in private prisons, private and guns and in harmful industries, right? But then you turn around and fund criminal justice reform, right? So those are like the contradictions of philanthropy, and we believe that the sector can be changed and should be changed, and we believe that the sector should be pro-Black. The fourth pillar is reparations. We believe that this country owes a debt to Black people. We also believe the sector owes a debt to Black people, and so we are advocating for reparations at the government level, right, at federal and local. I don't know if folks know that DC is actually the only jurisdiction in this country that actually did pay reparations, but they paid reparations to the white slave owners. And so we've been advocating and organizing around the DC reparations legislation, which was introduced by my former boss, Kenyon McDuffie, and passed last year. We had funding in the budget for it. We had $1.5 million in that budget to stand up the commission for reparations in the 2025 budget, but also folks know that Congress actually stripped DC of the 1.1 billion of our money, and so that money was stripped. So now we, if convenes the DC Reparations Coalition, we are advocating for not only, now that the bill is passed, for the bill to be funded and implemented. The other thing that we believe is that philanthropy owes a debt to Black people, and so we are pushing philanthropy to interrogate and learn their wealth origin stories, because a lot of the wealth was built from extraction from Black and harm from Black communities. And so in 2021, we funded in partnership with NCRP. It's called Cracks in the Foundation, and we can put that report. It's on our website, but Cracks in the Foundation studies our endowment and the endowments of 7 other foundations in our region, and talks about our wealth origin and the harm and how those endowments came from Black extraction of labor and genius. And so we believe that foundations like that should make return and pay repair. So we are kicking off our own, we don't call philanthropic reparations. The movement talks about only a government can do reparations. So we call it philanthropic redress and repair. And we are kicking off our own project. So we're HMO Conversion Foundation, Denise. And so that means that we got our money from the sale of an HMO. Our money comes from Group Health Association, which was an HMO back in the region.
I do remember. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in 1995, they sold to Humana, and so that is what when an HMO is sold, then some proceeds of that sell become most of the time HMO Conversion Foundation. And so we were formerly Consumer Health Foundation. And then in our latest strategic plan back during COVID in 2020, we shifted from a racial equity foundation to a racial justice foundation centering Blackness, and became a foundation for radical possibility. But our money came from an HMO, the Group Health Association specifically. And
Well,
so we're going to publish a report. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. We're going to publish a report about our wealth origin later at the top of next year. But we are, kicking off a project. To our board carved out $2.5 million of our endowment to try to find Black former GHA members and engage and redress and repair with them. The goal is $2.5 million is not going to make folks whole, but the goal is to materially impact their economic mobility.
Interesting. My mother was a member of Group Health. I remember that. So.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah. So there. I mean, you said a mouthful. It's a lot. I think I hope folks were able to follow, but. It sounds like you're not for the pillars that you have. I mean, I can't think of any nonprofit, or maybe there are, that wouldn't fit under one of those pillars. I mean, as far as community nonprofit organizations. So, I mean, would they be able to reach out to you if they were looking, or reach out to if they were looking for grants? Is there a grant season? I mean, how did they connect with these?
Yes, we have an RFP, and our RFP is not open right now. And so it is a 3-year commitment. So these 10, these are current 10 grantees. They're in year 2 of their grant making. And so we have another commitment for them for next year. And then the RFP would open back up.
I see. Okay. So there are 10 nonprofits you're funding right now. That's what you're saying? Okay. All right.
Yeah,
and
we shifted because we used to have around 30 to 40 grantees, smaller grants, and it was like 1 or 2 year cycles. We wanted a bigger commitment. So now there are 3-year grants, $75,000 each, and smaller number of grantees because we wanted to be deeper in relationship with them.
So you've been in this for, tell me about your journey. How did you, because it's a lot of work that's been done, and sounds like a pretty short period of time, but I'm curious about, your, how you got into this and, have become president and CEO. I mean, what was your journey?
Yeah, so I am from the South Side of Chicago. I came to DC for law school back in 2005. So I've been here since for over 20 years. So I claim both Chicago and DC as home, but I was raised in a Pan-African Black nationalist community on the South Side of Chicago. I went to New Concept Development Center that was created by Baba Hakeem Bouvier and his wife, Mama Safisha. And
actually, I had him as a professor at Howard.
Did you? Yeah, Baba Hakeem is amazing. So is Mama Safisha. So that is the school, that's the community that I was raised in. And it really informs how I approach the work, which is really about Black people. And I believe that when Black people are free, everybody else will be free. And came to DC at the time, before I joined Philanthropy, I was at DC Council. So I believe in local politics. I'm a fan of local politics. So I was at DC Council I've worked for Ward 4 council member Brandon Todd, and then Ward 5 council member at that time, Kenya McDuffie. And I met Dr. Yannick Redwood, who is my predecessor at the foundation. And she recruited me out of Philanthropy. She, after, normally you have like a half an hour conversation, she was asking me about racial equity legislation. And like, we built out a strategy and how who would support racial equity legislation in the city and who would lead that work. It was Kenya McDuffie who did do that work and lead that work. And maybe a month later, she asked me, we ended up talking for 2 hours, right? Versus the half an hour. And she said, I can't stop thinking about our conversation, your work. I'm creating a role, director of policy. And I don't know if you're interested, but are you interested? And so that is how I was interested. That's how I got into philanthropy. I was familiar with philanthropy. My mom actually retired from philanthropy in Chicago. She was a senior program officer at the Polk Brothers Foundation, Polk, P-O-L-K, not K-O, COK.
Yeah, right.
So I was familiar with philanthropy, but I never imagined like getting into the sector. And I started really focusing on building out a government portfolio at the foundation. But I've been in leadership. I had a co-CEO, and we led the foundation for about 4 years. And then I just became the sole president and CEO about a month ago.
So
but
this
I've been
is
in the sector since 2018.
amazing. That's great. I'm glad to hear that story. And as we, kind of take this time, this month of August, to observe Black philanthropy, what does this month mean to you and your organization? What should people be thinking about or doing to observe this month?
I think this is something that I don't think people should just be doing to observe this month. I think learning and building an analysis is what everybody should be doing. And I feel like we cannot address anti-Blackness if you cannot see it. And a lot of us are not taught to see it, right? And I think you apply it to where you are, right? So I think people have to get in where they fit in. So I think that's your ANC, that's your tenant association, that's your school board, that's your job. I think you show up for the organizations that are already doing the work in your neighborhood. You have time, you have skills, and you have presence. And I think that attention and analysis are resources that most people have more than they think they have of. So I'd say get involved, right? The other thing that I would say, like, I think that a lot of times people think philanthropy is synonymous with rich people. And we know that's not true, right? Black folks have been doing philanthropy since we've been here, right? So from mutual aid, from the church work, from investing in our own communities. And so I think that is philanthropy too. And I think we have to name it. And I think that was the importance of naming August as Black Philanthropy Month, right? We've been about this work always, and not always getting that recognition.
Wonderful. I mean, I think that's a good thing. When we talked to Dr. Copeland, the founder of Black Philanthropy Month, and she talked a lot about the money, that Black folks have been giving, and not only here in communities in the U.S. and globally, but also just the time and talent, the things that we talk about in our churches that we should be giving to one another in what she said, in love and humanity. Going forward, what are you looking forward to? I know you said you're going to be issuing a report pretty soon. If we'll be putting out a report pretty soon, what can we look forward to from the IF Foundation?
We're going to be releasing, so like we have shifted to a seasonal calendar. So fall is our harvest season. So we'll be releasing a project that is all about anti-Blackness in the United States. We feel like, there are so many books, and we have a reading rainbow on our website because we are committed to learning and unlearning. But people are like, y'all be reading so much. We do. We read a lot. And so but this year we really focus on deepening our analysis around Afro-pessimism. For board and staff retreat, I took my board and staff to Alabama. We went to the legacy sites, the EJI legacy sites. So really, I feel like we're in a moment where when you say center Blackness, not only in a moment, every time you say you center Blackness, people say, well, what about, right? And it's what about everybody else? What about, Latinos? What about, LGBTQ? First of all, there are Black LGBTQ folks, right? So in centering Blackness and given intersectionality, you don't lose that, right? But I do think it's so important that we understand the foundation of this country and the structure is anti-Blackness. And so when we go deep in the analysis and when we address those issues, then everybody will benefit. And so for me, because now I'm thinking about your question, what do we have to look forward to? I feel like there was not one place where you can just go through the historical record. And so we're going to release a primer on anti-Blackness in the United States. And so that'll come out this fall. We are kicking off our redress and repair project in partnership. DC Justice Lab is one of our research partners on that project. So we're going to be doing outreach for folks like you, Denise, who had family and who were former Black GHA members, and start this redress and repair project that we want to do. So I think those are the two biggest projects that I'm excited for coming up this fall.
And if people want to know more about IF, where would they reach out? I mean, either do you have volunteers, or how do people engage or use their own philanthropy to support the foundation?
I think they can, like, the first place to start is our website, and you can learn more about who we fund, what we have learned, and how to get involved. Also, you can sign up for our DC Reparations Coalition if you want to be involved in the DC reparations work that we're doing. And then we finished like the film festival season for our film Diminished Returns: The Black Wealth Gap in Washington, D.C. We just had a great meeting with WHUT, who wants to stream it and license it. So we're gonna this fall, they will be, if everything goes well, all contracts get signed, they will be, we are doing the public rollout of the documentary. We believe everybody needs to know that story and learn that history, so that we can get into some impactful policy interventions around the Black wealth gap here in DC, which is vast and growing. And so look out for that. We'll probably do more screenings publicly around our film. So you can also sign up to track what's happening with Diminished Returns, the Black wealth gap in Washington, D.C.
Wonderful. I really appreciate you, Temi, for being with us today, for opening our eyes and giving some exposure to our viewers, and who we're trying to grow and hopefully not only learn more, but engage more despite what we're facing from other folks. But I want to thank you for being with us today, for sharing this information. Anything you want to share before we close out?
No.
Okay. Wonderful. You got a lot of work on your hands. And again, I know that this is not just a month observation of philanthropy. It's a commitment. It's a lifelong commitment. And looks like you all are doing the work. So I appreciate you being with us today.
Thank you, Denise.
All righty. Take care.
Bye.